Thank you. Well, my name is Max Shelkoff. I'm with Engage by Cell. I'm one of the senior mobile solutions and technology consultants with Engage by Cell. And I am very fortunate enough to be joined by Shannon Tipton today. Shannon, you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. My name is Shannon Tipton. I am the owner of Learning Rebels, and I have been around this block. I'll go ahead and date myself. I've been around this block for almost 30 years now in a variety of L&D roles, facilitators and trainers, directors, global heads of ... So I've seen a lot, been around the block a time or two, and now doing it on my own since 2014.
Wow.
Here in Chicago.
Almost 10 years in. That's exciting.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I got an
crazy.
anniversary almost coming up.
Well, a little bit about Engage by Cell. We are a cloud-based, more communication and information accessibility kind of related technology company. And we started out in kind of Silicon Valley area out in California, roughly 15, 20 years ago. And now we've expanded. We have a location in Tennessee as well now, in Nashville. So shout out to that person that said they were in the thunderstorms in Tennessee right now. But we have a large presence working with hundreds and hundreds of customers in the training and workforce development industry, and utilizing our text messaging platforms, our mobile web app platforms to kind of bridge those communication gaps that occur within that training and onboarding process, and a lot of different use cases. And we'll kind of share a couple of them later on today. But Anna's doing a shout out there, Engaged by Cell in Nashville. Yep. We're going to talk with Shannon today and listen to her kind of explain what being a trainer in today's modern workforce is like, and some of the skills and tools that can kind of help you succeed in that field. So next slide, pretty please, Shannon, and it'll just have a couple of our customers with Engage by Cell, and just to give you a point of reference and kind of the broad spectrum here that we work with, from workforce development related industries to private industry and kind of everything in between, healthcare, casinos, departments of labor, all those good things. So, but Shannon, I believe it's your turn to get everything started, and then we'll dive on in, and hopefully I have some good questions for you.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. Let's see. So why we're all here? So you want to be a trainer, do you? Okay. Well, let me tell you, being a trainer, it's all about the glory and riches, right? Well, maybe not so much the riches and maybe not so much the glory, but there is sort of a certain satisfaction that comes with being within the position, where we connect to others, helping others to be smarter, better, faster than they were yesterday, helping our businesses succeed. So there is a lot of intrinsic and extrinsic satisfaction that comes with being in the position, right? And what I'm here to talk to you about really quickly, we've only got a short amount of time, is about some of those tips and techniques that you should have in your tool belt in order to build your capability. Now, where I want to start is I want to take a little bit of a poll. Well, first off, me, we've already talked about who I am, but here you are. Here's all of my information, just in case. There's my Twitter, my Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, email. And then you can also scan for the Learning Rebels coffee chat there on your screen. And when I tell you to connect with me, I mean it. I really want to be available to answer those questions that you may have. I like to think of myself as being an open coach for anybody who wants to ask me questions. So please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and we can begin to have, the conversations that you need to have. And our conversation today is based on what does it mean to be a trainer in today's world, especially when you think about the future of work, but we're not sure what the future holds. What are some of the key skills that you're going to need to have? And how are you going to go about building capability for yourself? All right. So here's the poll that I want to get to right now. Where are you? Right? Are you a trainer, but you want to build your skills? You're a trainer, or you're transitioning rather from maybe being a subject matter expert to a trainer, or you have developed or facilitated training, some good, some bad, and you're looking to improve the latter. Or perhaps you're transitioning from a different occupation into training. Maybe you were a teacher and you're moving into the industry, or maybe you were um, in healthcare and you're moving into the industry. I see that a lot too. So let me know where you are in your world. So go ahead and select one there on the screen. We'll give you a couple of moments to do that. And Donna, I'm training subject matter experts to be trainers. So you're in that train the trainer mode. And that's always a fun adventure, because train the trainer nowadays isn't what it used to be 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. It's
Right.
it's not your grandfather's train the trainer any longer, because there's just so much that we need to help move, and so much that we need to know when we think about adult learning and adult learning practices. Okay. So we'll give you, let's see what those results are. Here we go. All right. So most of you have developed or facilitated training, some good, some bad, and now you want to improve yourself a little bit. That's where
I
most of
love
you are
that.
sitting.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
that
You're
is.
transitioning from a different occupation, and you're a trainer, but you want to build some skills. Well, we're all in the right place today.
Yeah.
So here's where we're going to go, Max. We're going to talk about the future of work, preparing for the future of work when we don't know what the future holds. And unless you've been living under a rock, there's been all sorts of reports. As a matter of fact, LinkedIn Learning just released their 2023, learning at work report. I haven't read it yet. It was just released, I think, over the last couple of days. But the skills agenda has been top, right? CEOs everywhere are worried about the skills that they have within their organizations, and that's the future of where we're going. So when you think about where you sit within learning and development, there are 3 areas you need to keep in mind. And the first area is understanding what the nature of work is. What's the nature of work? Do you know how your business actually makes money? Right? So you may say, well, I work for a nonprofit. Well, all right, you work for a nonprofit, but that nonprofit still has to make money in order to be in existence. So what is the money flow? And then when you understand how your organization makes money, you can understand where to insert yourself as an L&D professional to help them make more money, because that's what all businesses want to do, right? We do live in a capitalistic society. So we want to help our businesses make money, and also helps keep us employed as well. And then the second part of this is understanding how work gets done. How do the engineers in your organization work? How does work get done in that department? How does the work get done in marketing? How does it get done in manufacturing? How does it get done on the floor of manufacturing? What are they doing? And why is that important? So I'll ask you in the chat, understanding how work gets done within your organization, why is that important? How is that going to help you? In the chat, share that with me.
Do you see that disconnect pretty frequently, Shannon, when you're working with organizations and things like that?
I do.
Yeah, interesting.
Yep, I do. There's a lot of times what happens in learning and development is that we're siloed off,
Gotcha.
and we're in a lot of cases, quote unquote, that order taker, where somebody comes knocking on the door and they say, we need compliance training. We need ladder safety training right now. And so we're being busy bees,
Right.
and taking the orders, and we have forgotten how the business actually works.
Gotcha.
Because we've siloed ourselves off.
Mhm.
And so Donna, it helps me develop and design and deliver training that is relevant. Yes, right? Yeah,
I
you
believe
become a
that's-
pair of hands in the organization. You understand, yes, Crystal, absolutely. You understand what the needs are because relevance becomes critical to what we do, right? We just finished a staff meeting where we were talking about this, try to get the staff involved in where the organization is going. Because if you don't understand the barriers, I'm an engineer or a person on the manufacturing floor. I'm a person on the manufacturing floor. And if you don't understand my struggle or my challenges or the barriers that get in the way, then you cannot create relevant learning solutions for me, right? Or even if you are a facilitator, you can't, if you don't understand my struggle, you can't facilitate to my struggle. So then the relevance is gone, right? Identifying efficiencies, identifying assumptions. Yes, those are all important. So now the next part of this is understanding the workforce of the future. Now, the workforce of the future means the people of the future. What are the skills that they are going to need? So here's your business today. Here's your business tomorrow. There's a gap there. Do you know what that gap is? Do you know the skills that it's going to take for them to move from here to here? Right? So that's key. And as learning and development professionals, this is important. Regardless of if you've been around the block for 20 years or if you started 3 months ago, this is something that requires investigation on your part. And it doesn't have to be formal. So let's say you're new, okay, to my person out there who's been in the industry for 3 months. I don't know where to start with this. I don't know what to do. You know what you do? You talk to people. You just simply talk to people. You don't need to do an Excel spreadsheet. You don't need to have an HRIS system. Just talk to people and say, based on chat GDP, GPT, based on augmented reality, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, all of these things that are happening in the world today, how do you see that affecting your job? Just have a conversation over lunch. And then you can kind of hone in as to what the needs may be. All right, and so then understanding what the skills that they're going to need for the future. So now let's transition into what does the workplace look like? So the workplace has seen significant disruption over the last 3 years. What additional disruption is coming? And how does that affect you? You should know this one. So how does it affect you? Think about 3 years ago. January 2020.
What happened?
Yeah, January 2020. Work looked like this.
Yeah.
In March 2020, 3 months later, work looked very different.
Everything changed. That's right.
Everything changed, right? And now today, we're 3 years into 3 years past. The work environment is still very different, and it's going to continue to be very different. It's now the new I hate the word new normal. That phrase just but in this case, it's appropriate. There is a new normal now, so let's get used to it. And so now it's about understanding what does the work environment look like now, and what are some of the new cultural norms around working, around collaboration, around communication, around community. What does that look like now? And these are all 3 moving pieces that any learning and development person needs to understand before they can be as helpful as they need to be for their organizations. Now, real quick, Meet the Modern Learner, Burnson by Deloitte. Give me a yes or no in the chat. Have you seen this before? Yes or no in the chat. Let me know if you've seen this. Lots of no's.
Lots of no's.
Some yeses, some no's, lots of no's.
I'm lucky
That's
that
okay.
you've shared this with me before, Shannon. So.
Lots of no's, but that's okay. We're all here to learn together, right? No hashtag no judgment zone. You can Google this. This is Googleable. Yes, that's a word. It's a Shannon Tipton word. I don't know it's an official Oxford Dictionary word, but it's a Shannon word. This is Googleable. You can go out, you can find this and review it. There's a lot of information on here. And there's a number of blogs out there that you can review, or articles that you can review, that will tell you what this says. And then there's more updated information. This was created back in I want to say 2017, 2018. Okay. But there's one piece of information that I want to pull out of this, and it's the 1% of a typical work week is all that employees have to focus on their professional growth and development. 1%. What does that equal to? Well, that equals to 24 minutes a week. So when you, as a new L&D person, as a person who's transitioning into this industry, realize that people really only dedicate 24 minutes a week, and that's being generous, to their own learning and development, that's another barrier that you need to overcome. Because your competition is baby goats on YouTube, man. People are like, hey, I've got a spare moment, I'm going to go down a rabbit hole. They are not, I tell you, they are not taking that 24 minutes and thinking, I wonder what's new in my learning management system today. That is not what they're thinking. So now your job is, how can you get the precious content, the precious knowledge that needs to be in front of them, right? So that's a barrier that you need to consider. And that's a whole topic for a whole other day about how to do that. But most importantly, I will make this point, that most training is not required. A lot of the training that we create today are simply checklists screaming to get out. So a lot of the courses, they don't need to be courses. Majority of them don't need to be courses. Most of them are an email, a job aid, a poster, an infographic, a 3-minute video. I could go on and on about what courses could be substituted as, and also are of greater benefit. Because if we go back to thinking about where your workers sit and where they work and the barriers that they see every day, if I'm on that manufacturing floor, do I want to take a course on ladder safety, or search through that course on ladder safety in order to find the document that I need? No. All I need is my little checklist, to check and make sure that everything is safe and in place. So I'll leave you with that thought. Now, let's talk about key skills. These are not the typical key skills that you might think. I'm not going to tell you here that you need to improve your facilitation skills. We know this. That's not new news. So what I'm talking about here are these sets of skills. It's actually these sets of capabilities. So what I'd like to do, poll just popped up here. Which of these L&D capabilities are you familiar with? And this is specifically for people who might be newer in the industry joining us today, those who are moving from subject matter expert to trainer, those who have moved outside of from a different occupation into learning and development. Which of these are you familiar with? Not which ones are you good at, but which ones are you familiar with? So let me know that. Pick as many as you want to pick.
That is interesting. I wish as a panelist I could vote. Unfortunately, we don't get the option.
So which one do you think, Max? Which one is?
I'm definitely familiar with human-centered design just because of our technology background.
Right.
That's one of our main challenges as well. In learning technology, obviously I check that box as well. Visual design is very important in my field. I see that. Thank you, Douglas. Somebody gets it. Then me personally, data analytics is very important for what I personally
bet.
do. So that plays a huge role in my day-to-day operation, and kind of measuring whether, the training and information that we're helping organizations provide to their audience, they come to me looking for data. So that
Right.
plays a large part in my role. Yeah.
So let's see the results of this poll. What have we got? Oh, look, okay. Most people familiar with some sort of learning technology. I think that that's a fair statement. Yep. Being the business consultant, that's usually lower. And I'm not shocked to see that in this form here, as well as data analytics. That's another one that I'm not surprised to see that might be a little lower on the scale. But absolutely, learning technologies, hybrid virtual engagement, those are human-centered design. Those would be ones that I would expect people to be familiar with. But let's flip the coin now. Let's talk about where you need help. So now you identified the things that you're familiar with. Well, I know about learning technologies, but I don't know how to use learning technologies or the variety of learning technologies that are out there. So let's discover where you need help.
I think you nailed it on the head there right off the bat, Shannon, with having access to all these amazing tools. And this is the case that I see probably most with Engage by Sell when we're assisting our customer base is providing all these tools, but then, we have to have a wonderful customer success specialist kind of department within our organization on how to deploy all these tools. How do you get them to
Right.
work, right? So having them and using them efficiently are two totally different things, so that's, I
Yeah,
think
it's
that's a
that
really
whole
good point.
ecosystem, isn't it?
Yep.
So all of these capabilities build in an ecosystem for L&D that makes us stronger and better and more relevant to our businesses, which is why do I want you to be subject matter experts on all of these different capabilities? No, no. However, if you're an instructional designer, you need to know about human-centered design. And that's not just about, seeing the graph with the little person in the middle of it. It's true human-centered design. It's about being that business consultant, right? And so where people need help, the development process and the training process. I am really happy to see that because in this space, let's be honest, where is it that we need help? And yes, in the development process for sure. How are we changing up what we need to know? So if you think about instructional design does not look the same as it did 5 or 10 years ago. It's very different now because one, we used to be able to develop a program and it could sit on a shelf for 5 years. Man, you're lucky if you could create a training program and it sit on the shelf for a year without
Yeah.
it being updated. So now the process is more agile, it's more flexible, it moves faster. There's more change agency that needs to be applied into training development nowadays. Let's see where else human-centered design. So, people feeling pretty comfortable about learning science. Okay. All right, but we won't get into that. But that's good. I'm glad you're feeling comfortable with that. But I hope that you're doing all of the research. We are terrible. I'll be perfectly honest with you. As an industry, we are terrible at research. We don't do it. So I would ask you, when we talk about building habits, how are you building habits around these things? So let's see here. Alternative delivery modalities, that's another one where we need help. And there are so many. And it is about building that ecosystem around all of the different training modalities. So hopefully, I haven't frightened you too much, but I've given you a baseline list. So now, if we're going to build capability, because you may be making this face right now at me, you're like, oh, I thought she was going to talk about how I could, write on a flip chart better. No, I'm talking about an entirely different set of capabilities, but you can do this. You can add these into your toolbox, right? It's an assumption that people are feeling comfortable. Maybe they don't realize how important it is. And I think that that's a great, thank you, JV, for making that that point. It's, are we feel comfortable knowing what we know. There's an unconscious bias here. And it's about awakening that. It's hard to say, well, I don't know what I don't know, but you don't know until you start investigating. And here's where I would ask you to start building habits around capability growth. So taking the list that I've given to you, there's probably, I think, 10 different items. What if you focused on human-centered design and researching the heck out of human-centered design in March? And then in April, you researched the heck out of visual design. And then in May, you researched learning science. You see where I'm going with this, right? So rather than trying to throw everything into one bucket, what if you built solid habits to help you discover what you didn't know and discover what might be important to what you're doing? So here's what I would ask you to do. I would ask you to, first off, plan your learning. Like I just said, plan something out, read more. I know our time is precious, but if you just took 10 minutes to read something every day over coffee, read a little bit every morning, you're going to find that your interest peaks. You're going to be more adventurous in what you seek out. You're going to be more curious, right? And that's what we're really striving for. I would also ask you to do your own research. There are a lot of people out there, myself included, who put ideas in front of people. But I don't ask you to take my thoughts as absolute. I am not even going to say that my thoughts are the true North Star. That's no, those are mine. And so what I would ask you to do is, gee, Shannon said that there is no such thing as learning styles. I would ask you to do your own research. Can you find information that's going to support that thought, to support that theory? Do your own research. Actively invest in yourself. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. Find a coach or a mentor and join communities and engage. This is where it's things like this, where you can go and you can talk to other people, even though we're in a webinar form here. It's, you still have this opportunity to discover, ooh, who is that person? And maybe, oh, JV, that was a really great thought. I can direct message JV and say, hey, I have questions about your thought. Is it okay if I connect with you on LinkedIn, right? So these are the things that we can do and build in order to strengthen our own capabilities. So I would ask you, I would implore you, please do not wait for your organization to give you money to build your capabilities.
I have a question about that, Shannon.
Yep.
And to your point of not waiting for your organization to throw you the bone, you need to kind of take that initiative to better yourself. And you keep mentioning do your own research and things. If someone wanted to start doing that research and kind of diving into some of these materials, do you have kind of suggested places they should be looking for that information? Or, is there specific things? Got around my list. But, is there kind of a good place for them to start doing that research? Any suggestions for that kind of path?
Sure. There are
Obviously, I
plenty
know
of
the internet's infinite, but yeah.
right, the internet is like a whole bunch of stuff, right? But you can start by, well, for example, you can source other people. So you find myself on LinkedIn, you can ask me, where would I start? Where did you start, right? There's also communities like, not communities, but there's associations like ATD, right? So the Association for Talent Development. If you have a membership with them, they have all sorts of research, that you can
I like
access.
that it's not just falling on the internet too. I like the fact that you're kind of saying it's in the community. You just, that's the greatest place to start that research is experience, right?
Right.
And get all the different opinions and form one ultimately for yourself, I guess. Is the,
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Learning Rebels itself has a community. So we meet every other Friday. and we'll put that's on my website. I'll put that link up here. Is we meet every other Friday and we talk about things. Like, for example, tomorrow we're doing our coffee chat about learning myths, as a matter of fact. So then we're hashing that out. We're having these discussions, we're pulling that research, we're talking about how we can communicate with others. And so I encourage you to find those communities. You can start with mine, and then we can point you in the direction of others. But it's a matter of setting this up for yourself. And I realize that we are past time, but we're a little, we said a half an hour, but we're going to go 45 just in case, and so here we
This
are.
recording will be available and we'll get it out to everybody. So if anybody
Right.
does have to go because of time constraints, you'll be able to watch it on your own time.
Yeah. Yes. And so we're happy to bring people in. And here are some things that you can do for yourself. Set yourself up for success when it comes to building your capabilities here. Set aside designated time. And here's a tip that I got from our community, which was not just only set aside time on your calendar. It's like, okay, we put in like meeting with myself in our calendar, but make it a to-do list item, because we all like marking off things on our to-do list, right? And it's like, oh, check, I did that. Check, I read something today. Check, I did some research. So it was more than just making it a calendar function. It was actually making it as a to-do list item. And I thought that was a really great idea to get a little more nuanced in what we were doing, and yes, and thank you, Corinda. I hope I didn't mispronounce your name. Thank you for that comment. It's if you're going to wait for your organization to pay for your capability development, you're going to be waiting for a long time. And so sometimes if you're passionate about what we do, and I am passionate about what I do, and my capability development comes straight out of pocket. And yes, I own my own business. And so I'm coming from a place of privilege. But before that, when I was working in corporate America, I paid for my own. I paid for my own ATD membership. I paid for myself to go to conferences because they weren't going to do it. And if I wanted to be better, and if I wanted to grow and find the next job that was going to help me to help level up, if I was going to move from a manager to a director to a VP, I needed to do this, right? And so you've got to take ownership of that. So here on the screen are some different ideas that you can give yourself. But I want to point out, be kind to yourself. Give yourself grace. You don't have to learn all of this tomorrow. Plan it out and just be thoughtful and give yourself grace around what you learn. So here, learn about the business and its people, prepare for the future of work, and build your own capabilities. And speaking of that, we have here for you, what I've set up for you is, well, first off, we're going to ask you to text Rebels Demo to 56512. And what you're going to do is you're going to receive a message about the Engage by Cell technology. And that's great. And we want you to investigate that. But afterwards, we're going to send you a series for the next 4 weeks. I'm going to send you a series of tips that you can do to build your capability. Or you can scan the QR code on the screen. So you're going to get 4 different tips over the course of 4 weeks with a little bit of resources that's going to help you get started. So I hope that you find that to be useful. So go ahead and scan the code. And like I said, you're going to get that little message that says, check out Engage by Cell, and check out, the little mini website here that Learning Rebels has set up. But be aware that after that, you're going to get 4 weeks worth of tips. And I hope that you find that really beneficial and useful to you. And so built on that, then, so here, I hope everybody got that. Yep. Okay. Next up, the coffee chat. I spoke about the coffee chat. Here's what we're doing tomorrow. So if you want to join us tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central, here you go. You can scan and you can join the coffee chat there, but also you can go to our website and the Learning Rebels website, go to the events page, and it's, all the information is there, and you can join the coffee chat community. So I'm hoping for you guys to be able to do that. And then based on this, we're giving you all the tools to help you build capability. On the 22nd, we have a Learn Something New Wednesday. We do this once a month. And this is all about building your visual design skills. So how can you build your visual design skills? There's a multiple places, lots of places that you can go. But I do have a subject matter expert coming in and showing us how we can use tools like Canva to help us build our knowledge here. And so that again is on our website. And let me put this in the chat real quick. Here's a super secret probation here for you. I haven't taken it down yet. So here you go. Valentine's 20, super secret. But if you entered that coupon code, it went out on Valentine's Day, but I haven't taken it down yet. So if you enter this coupon code, you can get in for 20% off. So there you go. So good for you for joining and sticking with us towards the end. Awesome. There we go. And of course, if you're looking for a free consultation, if you want some coaching, if you want some mentoring, you can schedule some time here with me. And that's also available on the website. So hopefully, I realized that this was like slapdash. Woo, woo, woo. This was a lot of stuff in a little bit amount of time, but I hope that everybody here today found this to be helpful. And also questions. If you have questions, put those into the chat and I'm happy to answer those for you while we're still here, while I turn it over to Max.
Yeah, I definitely learned some things today, Shannon. I always love listening to you talk. It's some of it's so interesting that it's just, once you take a step back, you kind of realize how some of them are some pretty low-hanging fruit that just get overlooked, I think, by what you mentioned earlier of just trainers getting siloed and set apart and not integrated. And there's things that seem like some baby steps that would make a big impact. And I always love it when you point those out because I think they get overlooked a lot. But again, if you are interested, if you scan that QR code or text it into Rebels Demo, you would have received that text message back there. And that would have taken you to a little link there. You can click, and within that link, there will be some different examples there. Thank you, Shannon, getting it pulled back up there of some different mobile web apps that we have set up just for demo purposes, where you can see some of the use cases. And kind of the highlight of these mobile web apps is there's zero IT required, right? So that's one giant hurdle to get over immediately. They can be adjusted on the fly. So with Shannon's kind of point of, you can't shelf information for years on a time, right, anymore. So within your training programs, and information is always constantly evolving. So within these mobile web apps that we help people create, you can change that information on the fly. So it's very accessible to be adapted to your current needs and instantaneously, really. But also the text messaging that you'll be receiving is powered by Engage by Cell, and that's kind of a interesting platform we have where it enables two-way communication, not just one big push, so you can interact and all those different things. But my information is at the end of the presentation as well. My email is super easy. It's just max@Engage by Cell. There we go. And again, Anna's been working behind the scenes for Shannon and I today, and she will make sure that this recorded little webinar gets out to everybody. Was there any questions we had come through, Shannon?
I haven't seen any on the chat, but I will open this up, while you guys are still here and while we might have a few more moments. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about building capability, about the skills needed for learning and development today. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put those into the chat for me. I'm here for you. Give it a few minutes, but and in the meantime, I want to again thank everyone for being with us today. I realize this was super fast, but if you show up on the coffee chat, we can have a deeper conversation. In your opinion, what is the hardest capability to master as an L&D professional? Oh, wow. There's a question. The hardest one to master. I think the hardest one to master is the learning science application.
I was going to say
Because,
that.
yeah, because there's a lot of information that changes. So I'll go back to learning myths for a second, where it wasn't that long ago where we were all talking about, Dale's cone of learning, right? Um, we only retain 10% by reading, that one. So that you see that pyramid. And we were all like, yeah, that makes sense. But, there's zero science to support that, and those are the things that continue to evolve. And so there's a big debate now about growth mindset versus fixed mindset now, where we were all on board with growth mindset, which is true. Growth mindset is a thing, but how we apply it now is kind of different based on what we've discovered. So staying up to date on learning science is, man, that wheel is constantly turning. So you really have to be engaged in keeping up on that research. Thank you, Josanne. Thank you for joining us. Laura, thank you for joining us.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. And yes, so you can reach me at shannon@learningrebels.com right there. If you have any additional questions for me, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer anything else that may be buzzing around in your head. And I hope to see you at a future coffee chat or learn something new. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you for your time. It's always a pleasure. Thanks for everybody who attended. And again, we'll make sure that we get the recorded webinar out to the masses, and then follow up with Shannon and I if you have any additional questions.